Welcome to Tech Intersect. I'm your host, Tonya Evans, and my life and work exist at the heart of law, business, and technology. Yeah, I've earned a few fancy titles and degrees over the years, but the bottom line is I'm a writer, speaker, teacher, and lifelong learner, and I'm really excited that you've joined me on this journey. So what is Tech Intersect? Well, it's authentic, empowering conversations with really interesting guests who demystify complex topics to prepare you for the future, because your future is now. And it exists where law, business, and tech intersect. Get ready to listen, learn, and leverage. Let's get started. In this episode, we welcome Charlie Oliver, the founder and CEO of Tech 2025. Her motto, be fearless and unapologetic in the fierce pursuit of your goals and be just as passionate about helping people. And she doesn't just talk the talk, she walks the walk. She's leveraging her vast experience in traditional and digital media and strategy, in entertainment and in law, and certainly in technology, to educate entrepreneurs and consumers on the next wave of disruptive, emerging technologies, the ones expected to drastically change our world in the next decade. She does so through live events and interactive workshops with industry experts, and she also has a fantastic podcast. Charlie offers a ton of value and great information in this episode, so let's get started. Hey, Tech Intersect listeners. I am so very honored and excited to welcome Charlie Oliver, founder and CEO of Tech 2025, to our ever so humble Tech Intersect abode. Charlie Oliver, welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. I'm really excited.
Thank you. We worked so hard. We have been in the same spaces at the same time, but it has been very difficult for us to connect in the actual physical sense. We go to a lot of the same conferences and we're speaking at the same time, or ships are passing in the night. But at least we have social medias to stay connected. And I see all the great work that you're doing. And I was so excited when I saw all of the things that you were posting about Tech 2025, and we'll get to that. But I'm really thrilled to have you here, and I think we'll have a great time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like you said, we're kind of like two ships passing in the night, right? But we're obviously in the same waters, and so so I see your tweets, and I follow you, and you just have such insightful posts and ideas, and I just love it. So I support you, and I love what you do, and so I'm really honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely amazing. So let's jump in. So where I want to begin, because I love origin stories, and I'll start and preface it by saying, when people hear about my background and expertise, you may or may not know I'm a former professional tennis player. A lawyer by day, poet by night. That's a whole other thing that we could talk about as well. Law school professor turned associate dean, and at all times the CEO of me, and an entrepreneur. I know you share that as well.
Yes.
And when people hear that lead up, they always they marvel in some sense at the varied and various experiences that brought me to this point. And as I reviewed your background and expertise, I'm really thrilled to share that, and I want my listeners to hear it from you, because I think it's really valuable for them to hear how, there's no wasted effort, and you may not know how all of these disparate pieces fit together. And by the end of this episode, they'll really see how your background and experience informs what you're doing now. But give us the lead up, the Charlie Oliver lead up of everything from, all of those background experiences in traditional media, TV production, all the things. Talk to us.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's really funny because inevitably, whenever someone asks me to talk about my background, I'm always told that I downplay it. right? They say,
Well, I'm gonna
oh,
check you. I'm gonna check you for
you
that.
go check. Oh, okay. Well, let's do this then. Okay, there we go.
I got you.
Okay. I
Mm,
think, as and you can maybe relate to this as well. When you are living life and you're doing your thing, you're living it, right? And you
right.
reach a certain age when you look back and I look back and I go, wow, I've done some things, I guess. And then other people are like, wow, you've done some things. And I'm like,
Mm,
okay, interesting. So when the reason I think one of the reasons my background is what it is because I came out at a young age. At 17, I was working at BBDO in New York City and I had my own
wow.
apartment. Yeah. And that wasn't even my first job. Actually, my first job was working at Amalgamated Bank when I was 14 years old.
Mm,
And,
wow.
and so, I came out young and I started working in advertising and in media and went through different positions and different things, trying to find myself. I was young, and then
Right.
at the age of like 19 or 20, ran out to LA thinking I wanted to be a writer
Right.
and worked on, I had the privilege of working on a lot of TV shows with a lot of the legends or greats, as I call them. These are
Yes.
people who defined TV in the 70s and in the 80s, like Norman Lear, Gary David Goldberg. I'll add Bill Cosby to that only because obviously he did define TV.
Absolutely.
What I'm saying? It was an experience. But so I worked in TV and film for years after working in publishing and in working in TV and film, and then I segued into indie film, right,
Mm-hmm.
which was also something that I really enjoyed doing, and worked at Sundance for a few years, and then when I came back to New York, I decided that I sort of wanted to change. And, this is a time in life when I was thinking, I don't know what I really want to do, but I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be in
Right.
entertainment anymore. And so I ended up working in corporate law, just in document review and working on
Mm-hmm.
contracts all night long with attorneys. But the fascinating thing about that helped to define help to support the path that I realize now that I was laying, that sort of got me to this point, is that I worked in that field in corporate law at a time when all of the banks were merging and sort of
Right.
collapsing onto each other, and all of this new technology was coming into the firms, and they needed people who were fearless with regards to sort of picking up the new technologies and using them and getting it and all of a sudden and converting all of these thousands of documents. So it gave me an opportunity. I was reading contracts day and night
Right.
with the attorney. So that was great. And I kind of hopped around, and then, after working in corporate law, I traveled a lot as well
Mm-hmm.
and wrote, which I love doing. But ultimately I ended up leaving media and that whole part of me behind because it became sort of unfulfilling for me
Right.
for a number of
And
reasons.
tell me how that feels when because there are, again, a lot of various experiences, and each one of those areas energetically just takes a lot. And
Ah, yes.
right. So did you find
Yes.
yourself depleted energetically? Because there are times when we are proficient and certainly
Mhm.
capable above and beyond the
Mhm.
call of duty is what we ordinarily do. But that
Right.
doesn't mean that that's your passion project or where you need to stay. So what was that
Exactly.
feeling like for you?
That's a great point. That's a really great and a great question. I had someone who looked at my bio and they said, "Boy, looking at your bio, you just seem to be you seem like you were someone who didn't really care what anyone thought about what you wanted to do. You just did it, right?" And so I said, "Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm an only child, so
Me too.
I
I knew I liked you. Oh my
yes,
gosh. I'm my own best friend.
there you go. Self love. Okay. So I certainly don't have a problem, or I'll say this: I'm not one who feels the need to be led by a group or to seek approval for everything that I do. So the moments when I do make these big shifts in my life, it has been because where I had become extremely uncomfortable or
Mm,
unfulfilling, and I just knew I had to go. And so with entertainment, with traditional media, as I'll call it, that's what we used to call it, in TV especially, I was oftentimes the only Black woman in the writer's room.
right.
Okay. And I had a great time. I learned a lot. I was able to contribute and do things and hear things that I knew other people weren't hearing. you know?
Right.
And after a while, the question you're ultimately faced with the same question again and again in life. And that is, who are you and who do you want to be? And is what you're
Mm,
doing serving either one of those things? And if the answer
right.
is
Right.
no,
Right.
I gotta
Right.
go.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
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 And sometimes you don't even know in the moment why it's no longer serving you. And you're like, well, I love this. It was a passion, for a couple of years. And now I detest it. It's aching. It hurts. I don't want to do it anymore. And so, so to that, in that regards, I think it's really important. And one of the things that I think for my life that has guided me is the necessity to listen to that voice and to allow myself to feel that pain of discomfort and then know how to get up and move on when I need to. And then looking back, I realized, I go, wow, but thank God I did. Right. And that's not to say that every move was perfect.
Right.
But it was necessary and to get me to where I am today,
That's
wherever
really
that is.
powerful. Really, really powerful, because it's always about moving forward. I was telling someone recently, and I use this to lead my direction in my own life, that you are either moving forward or back, that we're constantly dynamic. It is not static, this experience that we are having here on this earth.
Exactly.
And, it's no wasted effort. It's I've made some poor decisions, but that's a story for another day. But there's
Right.
you have new information, you get to make a new decision is the point, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to that point, I mean, there are a lot of times when we take one step back and then two steps forward, right? I mean, so, there was a brief moment of time when I was actually homeless for like several months, almost a year,
Wow.
actually, when after the market crashed in 2008, I felt like, I had my first startup, my first tech startup, right?
Right.
And it was really hard to fail at that because I didn't think that I could fail like that. I learned at that point in my life what it means to be arrogant, young and arrogant, right? Also, I think I began to understand sort of the cultural way that we are raised here in this country to think that we can do anything and everything and anything, and it just is what it is. It's going to happen, and that's it, right? Because when I launched my first startup, when I came out of entertainment and I decided I wanted to segue into tech, for me it was like, there's no doubt about it. I'm going to crush this because I crushed everything up until then, right? In my life, I just was the one who was running things. And so when you feel the power of external forces that force you to face yourself for what you are, for what you really are, right? And to accept a certain amount of humility that's necessary in order for you to step forward, to climb up to the next part. It's brutal, but it's necessary. So I said all of that to say, when I became homeless and I fell into that dark depression, that actually was one of the most profound moments in my life. It's not something that I regret. It's not something that I would undo. And the truth be told, in the beginning it was rough, but I actually ended up having a stronger mind, even while I was homeless, than I had when I was living it up and doing my thing,
Right. That is so powerful, because it also just demonstrates, we go through these seasons in life as well. And our lives, and when we look to nature, to the various seasons, they're neutral, they're agnostic.
Right.
Our experience through them, there will be a spring where there's youth, and vitality and growth. There will be a summer where it's hot, and all of that. There will be a fall, when I think of fall, which is it's my favorite season, I think of
Me
the
too.
harvest, right? So it's like the
Right.
harvest of self. So all of the planting and the waiting and the wanting and
Right.
the growth, that we start to see some manifestation. And then in every life, there falls a winter where we're pruning and we cut back.
Right.
It's cold and
By the
dark.
way, the winter is my favorite season, by the way.
Is it?
Oh, I love it. The
Tell me why.
colder, for the reasons that you just said, but also primarily because I absolutely love cold weather. I know that's kind of strange. That's number one.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy, but I'm gonna let it go.
You're not gonna hang up on me, are you?
No.
Okay. Well, my family is like, who are you? What? And also, it forces people to go inside. It forces people to just take a break after they've been running around like nutcases, in the summer, showing everything and being everything.
Right.
I don't need to see all of that. But in the winter, everybody has to go inside and just regroup and figure, kind of calm down. I like that. I like that a lot. As a matter of fact, when I was homeless, it was primarily during the winter that I went through that period. So yeah.
That is really interesting, and it's really speaking to me now. It's just interesting where I am at this point in life. You know, you look back over the titles and the accolades and all the
Yeah.
things that you stack up, but there is a necessary time. And you might be speaking to my listeners, but you're also speaking to me right now, which is why I love these conversations and why I love this platform, to have these authentic conversations. And a little piece of something resonates for everybody. There's something for everybody in it.
Right.
And so I absolutely receive that. And it leads me to my next question of talk about the transition into tech. You mentioned it a bit earlier, but give the listeners more of an idea of the how and the why you transitioned into tech in the tech space, and not only just from your entrepreneurial endeavors, but you're actually a leader in the space too with all that you're doing, and your platform is supporting people in doing that as well. So tell us about that transition.
Oh, okay. Well, I will say that in 2008, when I stepped into tech, it, like a lot of things in life, when we make decisions to make changes or to do something that's diabolically different than anything we've ever done before, it's usually because we have an opportunity that's presented to us. And we don't even know what that opportunity really entails. We don't really see the fullness of it. We just intuitively feel like, this is something here. There's something here. Let me go in this direction. So I met a woman. I had already begun to gravitate towards tech anyway, because I felt like at that time, now I know a lot of people aren't going to necessarily remember this, but 2007 was a strange time because Facebook had just launched. I mean, this was like pre-social media, right? This was not when, we were just getting up and going with these technologies online that allowed us to become more social, the web video platforms. I think YouTube had just launched the year before.
Right.
So it was really early. No one knew what this was going to be. And we certainly couldn't predict what it is today. So anyway, I looked at that and then said to myself, looking back at traditional media, which is what we called it back then, traditional media, I didn't see a place to go. I, as a Black woman, especially in the industry, I said, there's a lot of things that I guess I can do, but in terms of what feeds me creativity, my creativity, it's not here for me. And that following year in 2018, Barack Obama and you remember McCain had the election and right. So a woman came up to me. I'll never forget this. Her name was Catherine Bevel Jones. She's a producer in theater. And she came up to me and she says, you know what? This Sarah Palin chick, she cannot become, we cannot let this happen. McCain Palin. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, sure, you're right. Yeah. And so, and it was that passion, right? So she said, we've got to do something. Why don't we do this? And this was her idea. I'll never forget it. She said, you get media, I get media. I'm a producer. You're a producer. She's like, let's do a live webathon. She didn't call it a webathon. She said, let's do a live stream for 8 hours where we read letters that women across the country sent in about Sarah Palin becoming vice president, and how they felt about that. And let's read it live online. And no one had ever done that before, by the way. Again, YouTube was only up and going for a year and a half. So back then it was actually a platform called, I think it was Livestream or Ustream or something like that. So I said, yeah, that's hot. And we'll raise money. We'll do these little micro payments. And it wasn't even a platform that could, yes. Can you believe that? And so I said, well, okay, it was in that moment between the both of us that we decided to do something because it was out of necessity. We felt these are tools that we can use to amplify the voice of women. Yes, this is awesome. And there was literally thousands of these letters that had gone viral. And these women sent in emails and letters to answer this question. What do you think of Sarah Palin being vice president? And so she came up with the idea of reading it online and just having people coming in and picking up a letter and reading it and picking up a letter. So we did that. We called it a webathon. And we did that for 8 hours live online, and we just invited all of our friends and the actors in the community and everything and the writers, whatever, and they just came in and there was a line out the door and they would stand in front of the camera, and this was live stream, and it went viral, and it made number one on Twitter for trending. And this was back in 2008 before it had even, right? So that left an impression on me. And I had people sort of emailing me saying, oh my God, this is amazing. Look at what you guys did, and you were reading letters from women across the country. So anyway, that left an impression on me that I think is something that carries me through to this day. And I'm really appreciative to Catherine for that, because it was her idea. And it forced me to see the real potential of these platforms, even beyond what I thought. So I decided, well, my first startup is going to be a web video platform. And that's what I did. I launched Auto Talk TV, which was a web video platform for talk shows. Mm-hmm. Because remember, back then, talk shows were really popular still, the late night TV shows. Right. Mm-hmm. You couldn't just watch them on YouTube the way you could today. And so it was a platform for that. And the idea was that I would give D-list and C-list celebrities the opportunity to do their own one episode of a talk show online that we would produce. And if the audience loved it and voted it up, they'd get to do another one. Otherwise, they'd be out. Right. So, wow. And and that was back then. And our first guest was Rob Blagojevich.
Amazing.
I got him to sign a contract with us. Boy, I was desperate. I was like, oh, okay, he's D-list, right? He's ready to go to prison. Let's get
right. Or P-list as in prison. Right.
P-list as in prison. And so, but that's the amazing. So here's the thing. This is the amazing thing about tools that are created that we do not understand what to do with, is that it forces you to push beyond the boundaries of even your own perceived limitations, right? And so I'm like, calling people in Hollywood, emailing them. I'm like, listen, let your people come on our show, and we actually got a lot of traction. But anyway, it's so funny. Robert Blagojevich signed with us literally a week before Trump signed him for Celebrity Apprentice.
Wow, that's a hell of a get.
That's a hell of a get. And do you know what he said to me? I'll never forget this, because my attorney was Italian. To my attorney, was like, hey, Charlie, we got him. And we were just celebrating. Yay. And so Rob Blagojevich said this to me before he went to prison. He goes, I'm looking forward to being on Celebrity Apprentice, but like, I really, really want my own talk show. I really want to have, and I tapped that was the whole purpose of this. So to really be honest with you, the whole idea behind doing a web video show where I let celebrities come on and say, do their own talk show, it sounds crazy, but it's sort of the basis and the foundation of everything that I do, which is that I found that in my life, I am passionate for some reason. I don't know why. God help me, but I am passionate about helping people to have a voice on any platform that I can, to help them to express themselves in a way that's truest to themselves.
We hope you're enjoying this edition of Tech Intersect. Our conversation will continue in a moment, but first, a word on an exciting opportunity.
The Tech Intersect podcast is released to the public every Friday. But as an Advantage Evans member, you'll receive first listen access and live Tech Intersect Connect video chats. Premium members also receive a copy of my ebook, The Gen Xer's Guide to Upskilling in a Web 3.0 World, and unlimited access to the video chat replays and bonus episodes. My pro members, ready to leverage what they've listened to and learned, receive access to the Upskilling Self-Guided course and VIP group coaching calls. So as you can see, Advantage Evans membership adds substantial value to your podcast experience. And there are 3 ways to take advantage, see what I did right there, of all that the Tech Intersect podcast has to offer. So subscribe now, and let's listen, learn, and leverage together.
And now, back to the conversation.
Wow. Well, that obviously led to the foundations of Tech 2025. Tell us about Tech 2025 and that entire platform and what you're using it for to help amplify voices and educate people as well.
Oh, sure. It's a process. It is a process. So So after I did Auto Talk TV, that tanked. I went through my whole process. And then I launched, while I was homeless, I actually launched Surfresh Media, which is my digital media strategy agency. And I've been working that for 10 years. And it's been very good to me. And we do branding and marketing and all these wonderful things for enterprise companies primarily. Tech 2025 was birthed out of what I think was a passion. And that was in 2016. I read an article from that Craig Schmidt,
Mm-hmm.
who's of Google, chairman of Google,
Oh,
wrote.
yes.
Yes, he co-authored this article with Sebastian Throne, and they basically were pontificating about how wonderful AI was going to be, and they were basically saying, "Stop being silly, stop questioning us, stop all this fear mongering. It's going to be amazing. Just sit back and let us do what we're going to do." And that article infuriated me. It infuriated me because I know that even if, best case scenario, these technologies create a world that we could have only dreamt of, our utopia, we're going to go through hell to get there. And we haven't even begun that process yet. We've been pretty comfortable the last 50 years. Not everybody. I mean, we've gone through a lot, but there will be people who will fall through the cracks. There are people who aren't going to be heard. And so I became passionate about the idea of educating people, not just educating them, but getting them to see the unbelievable opportunity that's before us for them to finally get a piece of the pie, right? That this is not Web 2.0 again, right? Where in 2.0, only a few got a piece of it, only a few who, kept it amongst themselves. So it was that. And it was also, I sat in front of Mark Zuckerberg. I was 10 feet in front of him when he made the comment about Facebook. There's no way in the world that Facebook could have, had anything to do with Russian interference. And that was at an event. And that was the day after Trump was elected in 2016. And when I saw him make that comment, in his interview, and this was at an event, he was so adamant that there was no way that what he was doing could harm this world, that his platform could hurt the democracy, that I thought to myself, not only is it important that we educate people, but if there's an imperative here, all of a sudden a sense of urgency came over me, because I thought, if we don't give people an opportunity to, number one, understand what's really happening, and then number two, to sort of get in on the action, then I think we're going to be screwed, because they can't do it without us. Unlike 2.0, they were able to sort of build this whole world and these technologies without us, these platforms, in a way that kind of, benefited a few, even though we all sort of benefit from it in a way. But I guess with regards to what's coming in these technologies that are coming down the pipeline, there's a leveling of the playing field to some degree. And the way that I put it is that there's a wide open window of opportunity, but it's closing very quickly.
Oh, it's so well said. And as I think of, I talk a lot about the future of work, about helping to prepare people in general, women in particular, and women of color, even more specifically. How do we participate in this new economy in a way, as you said, that we just missed it completely at the Web 2.0 level? And so when I think of blockchain and distributed ledger technologies and AI and ML and augmented reality and virtual reality and all the realities, and the fact that data is, as they say, of course, the new oil, and that we're just in a technology driven society, and we're, as you said, moving at, it's just a meteoric clip, right? We plodded along for centuries, and then we started this uptick kind of like mid 20th century, and then at the end of the 20th century, things really started to take off, and now look at where we are, and we can not even imagine where we're going to be. But it's this moment in time, whether you're technologically proficient or not, you don't have to be a coder, but you do have to participate and prepare yourself for where we are and where we are going.
And we're not trained for that. We've not been raised. We've been trained to be the exact opposite from the time we're born until the time we die. We're trained to follow a very strict, sort of narrow life plan. We're not taught to think for ourselves, to think critically, and it's frustrating, right? And so when I created Tech 2025, I had clients coming to me in 2016, and these were our clients for Surfresh Media, who were really frightened. They were just like, Charlie, what is this AI machine learning? And this was back in 2016, before the hype cycle really got going. And And I joke around because I say to everyone, that was the first time that I really started to see fear in the faces of rich white men.
And what does that look like?
It's really funny. Well, I love to say because it's funny, but it's true. It's like they knew that this was different. This was going to be different. And so with Tech 2025, there were a few ground rules that I laid for Tech 2025. Number one, the reason I call it 2025, or I targeted it that year, was because when you listened back in 2016 to all of the developers, not all of them, but when you listen to interviews or read interviews from the people who were developing these technologies back then, and the question always comes up, well, when, the technologies are still nascent, when will they be ready for prime time? When will they become mainstream and really sort of bring to fruition all that they promise? And most of the developers of these technologies, and I'm talking about like 8 or 9 technologies, from 3D printing to VR, AR, to AI, to machine learning and everything, blockchain, they all were saying, about 5 to 8 years. Right. And so I'm like, whoa, that's like 2025.
Right.
And then I started thinking to myself, that's just that, it could be 20 to 30 for all I care. But the fact of the matter is, if all of these technologies are developing all at the same time, and they all are truly disruptive, not just to our businesses and our way of life, but to the nature of our reality and how we define reality. If even 2 of these technologies come to sort of the full fruition of what they can be or what the promise of them is, then we're screwed by 2025. If that's the case, that doesn't give us much time. To prepare and to absorb this, right? In the past, when we had the Industrial Revolution, we had like 100 years to sort of absorb the shock of it, right? And now you've got like 2 minutes, And so, and so that's a lot of what this is about. And I saw myself, because I work in events and I've been doing events for 10 years, corporate events, business tech events or whatever, for clients. I didn't want this to be about events where you just kind of sort of sit on a panel and talk, but rather where you have the audience participate in problem solving along with the speakers, who are pretty smart people too. But my money, when I stand in front of the audience and I say, we need to have this conversation, is on them coming up with amazing ideas and realizing that they actually are the solution to the problems that the people developing these technologies are seeking. They're just underutilized.
Right. I can tell that, there's so many things. I could talk all night, but I know we're coming up on the edge of time. And I want to tie some of the things that we've talked about together, particularly given the direction and the future of Tech 2025. And so you teed it up very nicely. I see you have some really interesting events about technology leadership and algorithmic bias and injustice, which is critically important. It's so important because of the disparate impact, as you've mentioned, on communities of color and other marginalized communities. So talk about what the future of Tech 2025 is and some of those events.
Sure. Well, we've done about 70 events so far. We've been up and going since, as a matter of fact, January the 11th, 2020 makes our 3rd year anniversary. Gosh,
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And so this is a great opportunity for me to explain that we actually are, we're digging down on our initial mission, which is, for the past 3 years, we've all been suffering from shell shock, right? I mean, we've been run over by innovation. We didn't expect, number one, we didn't expect Trump to win, right? And then we didn't expect these technologies to kind of all explode at the same time. And now it's like, whoa, I think everyone has accepted the fact that we're moving into a very different world, right? So our goal at Tech 2025 now is to switch gears a little bit to say, okay, we've been sort of run over by the innovation train for the past 3 years and all of these events that are happening. At this point, everybody should be pretty much on the same page that things are changing. The jobs are going and coming, they're changing, and we have to prepare. So the question that we're asking everyone who participates in our events, in our community, our members, our, partners, is what are you doing over the next 5 years to prepare for what's coming, right? Like, what's your strategy? What's your strategy? Because at this point, we should be talking strategy. And so look, using 2025, the year 2025, so just sort of as a focal point, right? I think the next 5 years are going to actually define the next 50 in the same way that like World War II defined sort of the next 50 years of governance in this world and the economy and everything. I think the next 5 years are going to be crucial. So we launched Tech 2025's continuous learning division or program, which is an upskilling program to help companies and professionals and people to upskill in the things that we know that they should be trained in that companies aren't really focusing on. When you are getting your upskilling in companies, you're learning about the hard skills, right? How to code, you're learning about specific technical skills that the company thinks that you need or feels you need to serve their purpose and their products and everything. And that's great. That's fine. I get that. What we're focusing on is the leadership, the strategic thinking, the problem solving, the things that we also know is crucial to implementing these technologies smartly, wisely, right? It doesn't matter if you can code if you don't know how to make decisions about whether or not you should be rolling out a particular product or how it should be done so that it's not biased, right? So we're focusing on that. So we have courses on that and we'll be licensing them to companies. But then also we are bringing in events that are focusing on the stories and the people who are very much impacted by these technologies. So we have this one, we have actually one of our advisors now who is coming in to talk about how he is the only formerly incarcerated man to fight for his freedom after being wrongfully denied parole by a biased program. Right?
Wow.
By software. So yeah, it's pretty profound. We have to begin to put faces to these, to this technology. So we're doing that too. I'm really excited about that as well. But yeah, it's going to be a crazy year, 2020.
It's going to be something. And guess
it's going
what?
to be something.
It's here. It's basically
Is
here.
Is it? Okay.
Here.
Okay. I feel like everybody's preparing for it. I don't know if we can really, but we can prepare for it. We can prepare for it.
We can. And I saw someone tweet earlier today that, because we're always focused on what the vision board's going to be and our resolutions. And we still have some days left in this raggedy 2029.
Yes.
2019. Look at me. I went really far.
I love it.
That's how done I am with 2019, right? I'm 10
like
years
2020, beyond 2025. I'm like, whoa, okay.
Right. But there's, in this moment, as you said, how do we prepare ourselves going forward? And every day we should be in that process of evolution every day. And when I talk about upskilling, and that's great to add value where you are in place, but you're always, I want everybody to continue to focus on being the CEO of me. That you are on loan, right? You're on loan to wherever you happen to get your W-2 income until you make that next move.
This is true. But here's the thing. I'll tell you something. I'm really concerned, right? Because I am shocked. One of the things that I can tell you in my speakers, our speakers who come in, because I challenge them as well when they come in. No one comes in and grabs the mic and just talks at our event. We want to have thoughtful discussions. And the speakers at our events all say the same thing for the most part, which is that they're shocked at how people are thinking about things. And I'm like, yeah, I am too. Maybe not as much as you, but we're not talking to each other about this stuff the way that we should be. And certainly these companies are not really getting and understanding how people are thinking and feeling. Right. And so when they come into our events, we ask them questions that are like deep sort of questions to think about problems. I'm shocked by the stuff that I hear. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that sort of blew us away a couple of weeks ago was at our event, which was on upskilling. We had Lauren Weber from the Wall Street Journal and John Pavley from Viacom and everything. It was a great event. And the question that I asked the audience of professionals who were coming to an event about upskilling was, how many people in here, by show of hands, thinks that their job will be partially or fully automated within the next 5 years? Do you know only one hand went up in the air?
What?
Yes. One hand out of let's say 70 people went up in the air. And it was shocking because, again, this is an audience that's savvy enough to know that they should be coming to an event about upskilling. Right. Some of the people in there were professional, were technical even. Some of them were coders. Some of them were, a couple of software engineers, all professionals, a couple of students, very diverse. But only one person in that audience felt like their job was in danger of being automated. And guess
Wow.
who that person was? It was an accountant. Everyone was like, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, yeah. You know, of course.
Right.
But I said that to say, because it shocked all of us and, you know, my speakers as well, is that if in a room full of people who are very smart, educated, accomplished, they know enough, they're forward thinking enough to come to an event about upskilling, if in that environment you still have people who, for whatever reason, aren't accepting that their very position is going to be greatly changed or impacted by automation in some way, it kind of,
Right.
it's almost like a cognitive dissonance. It's like, what's, you know, are we seeing the problem? Are we really seeing what's ahead of us for what it is?
Right.
And if not, what do we do to change that?
Well, I think what you are doing, and I'm certainly not only a lifelong learner, but very invested in educating and lifting as I climb. And that's how we're going to get there collectively. And if we
Mm.
don't get there collectively, it's a wrap anyway. We
Yeah,
have to do this work together, and
exactly.
it's just beating the drum, and I say that intentionally to get people's attention and get them on board and moving forward in something, figuring out. Many of us have made this substantial investment into education, into whatever path we have leading to this moment in time. How do you leverage what you already know to be
Right.
viable and relevant and damn near indispensable with the future of work that we're talking about here? And that's the mission right
Right.
now. That's it. That's where we are.
It's mission critical, mission critical.
Absolutely.
But I really do believe we're up to it. I
Yes,
just think it's, you know, it's going to be uncomfortable, and it should be.
it should be,
Maybe
because that prompts you to move, right?
move that booty.
Exactly. Well, as people are getting ready to move themselves in the right direction, tell people how they can connect with you, learn more about Tech 2025, and get their entire lives together.
Oh my God.
No
Well,
pressure. No pressure.
it's a lot of pressure, right? No, it's okay. Well, so you can follow us throughout social media on all platforms at Join Tech 2025. So that's our name across the platforms. And it's complicated on Twitter. So that's easy to follow if you'd like to follow me. But you can go to tech2025.com, our website. And when you go there, you can sign up for our newsletter. You're more than welcome to come to our events. They're listed on the site under our upcoming events. We have like 3 events in January. You know, we have one I already mentioned, and then we have another one on. We're doing actually a tour of Walmart's new store of the future out in Long Island. Yes. So it's a sort of a hands-on experiential tour of their facilities and how they're implementing AI directly with consumers and products and stuff in their stores. And then we are launching our 100 Jobs of the Future series starting in July. We'll be looking at specifically jobs of the future that experts are predicting will be coming very soon. So it's a sort of a strategy session and a think tank about these jobs and what we should be doing to prepare for them. So yeah, come on over. You're welcome to come. I look forward to connecting with you guys. And
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. I'm going to drop all of that in the show notes so that everybody has access to this information. For those who are members of Advantage Evans, you'll get a deeper dive and a curated experience with additional things to watch, to listen, to learn, and to support you in your educational process as you continue to move forward in your own lives and your careers as well. Charlie, thank you so much. You dropped all the mics and all the wisdom. And I appreciate you very much. And
thank you.
You're just
you
adding
so
so much value, not only to this experience that we're having together, but obviously to the entire tech community. And as you're supporting people to move forward, just know that it is not going unnoticed. And I'm here and I'm happy to support all of your endeavors. So thank you.
You are so wonderful. I truly adore you, and I appreciate that you've given me this opportunity to speak to your audience. Thank you so much. It was a no-brainer for me. It wasn't even a moment of hesitation when you asked me to come on. I was really excited. So thank you. And I have to tell you, I follow your tweets and your posts. You are I learn from you. I love what you share. And that definitely helps me a lot in what I do too. So thank you so much for being amazing.
Charlie shared so much wisdom in this episode. It was fantastic. Lots of great takeaways, to be sure. First, her origin story reminds us there is no wasted effort. Her background is varied and diverse, and she's been working and building from a very young age. That hustle and grit is paying off. You don't always know why you're having the personal and professional experiences you're having, but Charlie's example shows that if you're nimble, flexible, confident, and ambitious, you can draw on your foundation to ensure you always remain of value and relevant in the workplace. Also, sometimes when you are proficient, it may not mean that you're actually passionate, but there are no accidents, only new information. And new information leads to new choices. The questions that you must return to again and again, as Charlie mentioned. First, who are you and what do you want to be? And is what you're doing right now serving those things? If not, it's time to shift and pivot and reinvent yourself. And there's no better time than now in this new technological wave to do just that. You have new information. So let's make a new decision. Look, Charlie knows homelessness and depression and how to make a way out of no way, not only to survive, but to thrive. And she does it also by empowering others, especially now through Tech 2025. I'm so inspired by her story. I hope you are too. And I hope she inspires you to figure out how and when to transition to your own next great adventure and to tap into the incredible opportunities that exist in Web 3.0 in the midst of this dramatic, pervasive, disruptive technological age. Let me know what your favorite takeaways are from the app. Tweet me, drop me a note in the comments section about where you are in your journey and what your plans are to pivot. Let's plan and pivot together. I look forward to hearing from you. Until next time, continue to shine.
Stay in touch with host Tonya Evans via your favorite social media. On Twitter at TechIntersect and on Instagram via the handle TechIntersect. This podcast has been produced by Stephanie Renee for Soul Sanctuary Incorporated.